And now the Town Council work session for Monday, August the 7th, 2017 at 7:24 p.m. Town staff and related items. Joint tourism MOU with the County of Warren. Town manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you're all aware that Warren County recently adopted a 3% increase to their transient occupancy tax to be used for tourism purposes. With that in mind, the town and county would like to create a joint tourism advisory committee. And with that, we've got an MOU in front of y'all that we've been working with the county. And we have a few more changes to what we've got there, but I'm going to let Felicia Hart take the lead on this and go over some of the recommended changes on what she feels need to be changed.
Alicia, let me get the podium over here for you, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. I think if you address the entire council and the audience at the same time, that would be great for you.
And if I could,
Gentlemen, you should have received an email
Right, it's in
earlier
the
this
email.
afternoon.
Yes,
It is
right.
both
Okay.
on your email and it's
Mr. Mayor,
also
you
on
need
your
a copy.
drive.
Okay, sure.
It's in the
Thank you,
email.
Felicia.
all right. Oh, and the other rest?
Please.
Thank you. All right, thank you all. This is something that I had asked for when you had asked me to take over tourism. I believe in these advisory committees. I think they're important. I think it's important for any board to get direction or any group to get direction from those that we are working for. So the purpose of my intent was for the advisory committee was to bring in the different facets. Folks who are related to the tourism, who are, whether it's the lodging, whether it's the outdoor assets, any of that. So this is a good start that the county had put together. My changes, you can see are in yellow, the recommended, and then the gray areas are my comments as to why I made those recommendations. I'll leave those for you all to review if you have any questions on those. But I think this committee shall under the D, and there things like assist when directed by the tourism director. I really think this needs to stay in the hands of the tourism department, that we're managing this, that we're in control, that we're the ones putting the words out there for the community. So it's a complete story that we're telling, and we're not hearing it from one side or from another group. Since we'll be working directly with, the tourism department will be working with all of these businesses. Under the financial matters on page 2, I did talk with BJ about this. That is where they're looking at who will be the fiscal agent for this. Realize there are part of this project will be projects like the wayfinding signage. Now, we did put some monies aside in the community development block grant, so we should be hopefully getting some monies that we can allocate towards this. But for the most part, these projects are going to be partners with the town and the county. So who's going to manage that? Who's going to be managing the process, the bidding process? So if we have to send it out for RFPs, who's going to produce that? Is the county going to have to see their version? Are we going to have to see our version? That kind of thing. So that's something we need to make sure that and council and all of staff understands that this is what we're getting into here when we're talking about some of these. BJ, did you have any? Where is BJ?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, just that my recommendation would be that
Can't hear you, BJ. Could you
Sorry.
stand, please?
Yeah, sorry. My recommendation would be that the town and county each pay the individual vendors their percentages. That way it would alleviate budget amendments, bring it to council, kind of streamline the process. So, other than that, it was a good idea.
Back up on page 2, if you look at under C4 there, they're looking at, they would have a position for the treasurer, and it says there they would develop the annual budget of the funds. There's actually going to be no annual budget on the town side, because that's a tourism budget that we have to work with, not for this advisory group that we will have a separate budget for. So, as you can see, I've said there that no additional town funds will be set aside. The exception there, again, maybe the community development block grant monies that we can set aside once, if they're awarded to us and if council so approves. On page 3, if you look at the top there for B, tourism representative, we agree, they're talking about a 50-50 split. That is clearly not always going to be the case because, again, take the wayfinding signage. We could have 20 signs in the county and 30 signs in the town. So, if the county's willing to pay 50-50, that's great, but I'm guessing both parties want to pay their fair share. So that's, again, where I've expressed how do we need to address that there. The goals of the committee, there, if you look at on the bottom of page 3, that this committee will provide recommendations versus direction and oversight to the public employees. Again, the purpose of this is I still maintain, Joe is still my boss. This committee is not controlling what we're trying to do. Their purpose is to enhance, to inform, to educate us as to what we need to do and other options that we can certainly take advantage of, excuse me. I did add there at the bottom on page 4 the amendments. You can see I've added there the clause that either party can back out of that with a 30-day written notice to the other party. Because if we've got things in motion, if we've got contracts that we've already started, we need that time to understand that somebody's going to be, we will be dissolving this.
Committee's going to be made up of who?
It would be the 3 basic.
3 members?
It would be myself, it would be Taryn Logan from the county, Nikki Foster from the chamber, and then each of the localities would appoint 3 representatives. So the county would pick 3 from their board of supervisors, and then 3 would be appointed by the town council. One of those 3 has to be somebody from the lodging.
So we're
And I've
total,
got
you're going to have total,
It would be a board of 9. And I'll put together the recommendations of the folks that I would recommend.
So lodging would get 1 from the town and 1 from the county.
Correct, yes, sir.
tough one. Not really, actually.
Well, we've got the Hampton Inn.
Felicia, when would you like to see this committee?
I'm sorry?
The committee? Is there a deadline here?
Well, in talking, when Joe and I met with Doug, I think he said after the first of the year.
Yeah, right now, Doug brought it up at the last liaison meeting, so we wanted to get this in front of everybody. If we get any input from council, and then I would assume that we would take that back to the liaison committee and work it through that process.
Yes.
But yeah, as Felicia said, they would like to get this established by the first of the year.
I'm going to go ahead and meanwhile start some subcommittees, just because I need to start talking to the lodging groups. I need to start talking to the outdoor assets folks and putting together my budget for next year, looking at the advertising. They're the ones, especially the outdoor asset guys, the canoe companies, they know where to market best for their clients. So I want to make sure that that's the target we're hitting.
Joe, the financing, I know we did the tax increase for Felicia's when she first started, and we're still collecting that 1/3 or whatever it was. That money will still go to the budget line item for Felicia's job.
Right. I have no impact on this
It
at
has
all.
no impact on here. We'll continue using that along for the budget also.
Right. Unless we decide with the county to put additional funds for a certain project that's
Yeah.
acceptable to all parties.
I guess the reason why I was asking, because we hired Felicia at a set amount of money, and then we knew we were going to need monies to do things, for Felicia to do things. So that's what I was making sure, that there was going to be monies for her, for us, and then it would be the 3% from there and the tourism. Okay.
Yeah, you will see that this year's budget process, Felicia will have a lot more opportunity this time around being an employee to to bring out forth some more ideas on the
Absolutely.
budgeting and funding things that she needs to.
Okay.
And the funding you're talking about, though, is for community development, correct? Not the tourism?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. So we'll make sure it stays intact.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so if you're, Felicia, make a recommendation, the committee makes a recommendation for something they would like to do that incorporates funds, who's the final approval of that? Is the committee just chartered to make those decisions with the allocated budgets that they already have? Or do they have to go through the Board of Supervisors, or do they have to go through Town Council?
Well, I'm not sure how they're going to do it on the county side, because they're just automatically allocating those funds into
And so
that.
we say, yes, we want to move forward with our portion of it. The county says, no, we don't want to move forward with our, the
And
other
it's pretty
side.
much a done deal, because there's no way we can complete a project with only half of the commitment.
Are we going to have, I guess that's my point, is if it is funded ahead of time, can the committee just make decisions and move forward, or do you have to continually get the blessing of town council and the board of
Well,
supervisors?
they won't be able to move forward that easily, because, especially from a tourism standpoint, because I'm going to have to, each time a project comes up, I'm going to have to look at the tourism budget to see where I can reallocate those funds.
But do you see what I'm trying to get at? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to avoid this to become an even bigger, now you gotta go through the board of supervisors, then you have to go through town council. If we don't agree, then we're gonna have to talk about it and try to figure it out, and meanwhile, we burn 3 months.
Yes, yeah. And for my part, for my side, like I say, for the tourism side, I can just go through my budget and reallocate.
Okay,
So that's an easy enough process, working with BJ and getting it before you all.
Kind of like, no matter whatever we do, there's always going to be little hiccups along the way. And with the relationship that we have with the county, I think hiccups can be taken care of.
Yeah. Like I say, I just want to make sure that we're making it clear, and that we're not going to muddy the waters as to what the direction of the tourism is doing, and that there's another voice out there saying this is what we're doing, that we're working together
So
to
he
get
would-
this out there.
and just a thought, but you made a comment about some of the board members being represented through either a lodging business or hotel motel, or other businesses. My first initial reaction to the board was that it's rather large for the committee, but really I'm thinking about appointments from council and the board of supervisors. I think it'd be worthwhile looking at the Chamber of Commerce, taking 2 picks to represent businesses in the town, active members from the businesses, and reducing our picks to a couple appointments made by your recommendation that we'll adopt.
Well, if you look, what my recommendations would be not only from the lodging, but from the business owners. And it may not be something that's directly related to tourism, but it's that there's a business who's looking at driving, whether they're building something, knowing that they're looking out for the greater good, and that they're looking at it from a different perspective. Does
So
that
that
make
would be
sense?
your recommendation and not the chamber's recommendation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I put together some names that I'll work with Joe on, and then
Okay.
I
feather
think
it
the
down
committee
to
is going
you.
to be a big enhancement for the council and the county together to get things done, to get tourists here. Not only do they bring tourists into the county, but the town, county.
Well, our numbers have been steadily increasing. We've been, just since I've taken over the staff, we've been members of several associations, but by enhancing, and you can see there on page 1, under D in the gray areas, the membership that we participated in, the Shenandoah Valley Tourism Partnership. I mean, right now, we're averaging about 750 to 800 folks, visitors a week in the visitor center. Those numbers are growing. By joining the Shenandoah Valley Tourism Partnership, we're really doing some strategic marketing in Florida. We're seeing the returns on that. We're getting these people who are actually coming, they're not just asking for the information, they're actually following up and they're visiting us. They're checking into the visitor center. These other groups, well, again, with the Shenandoah Valley Tourism Partnerships, that's the one with the Shenandoah Spirits Trail. We're now members of that. We paid the dues to be a member in that. We're getting folks like Billy Clifton. She's actually going to be participating in the Metropolitan DC cooking show that will be held there. And yeah, so, you know, we've been willing to put the money up front, so that's gonna allow 14 folks, wineries, breweries, distilleries, to participate and showcase their product in a DC show. So we're getting folks from like the HGTV. We just had folks from the travel agent or the travel Newport News come up here. They spent a day with us looking at doing a joint bus tour. Would start here in Front Royal and then end up in Newport News. We just had I just hosted 21 outdoor travel writers here, and it's from China, Brazil, all over the world. So we're really starting to pick things up. That's why maintaining these memberships, really participating in those is a driving factor, and I want to make sure we do that. And again, just not delude things by adding this advisory committee. We're just trying to enhance.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to say, Felicia, you're doing a great job.
No, thank you.
And I appreciate your effort.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
When I read this, Felicia, what I read is, what you're saying is, as tourism director, you would have more control. Now, when you discussed that with Doug, what was his feeling from the county side?
Well, we hadn't gotten into the weeds at that point in time, but
Excuse me.
again, the whole purpose when
I mean, did he understand that you've got to have somebody that kind of pyramids this thing and
I would think he would, most definitely. I would think he would. Again, we don't want to delude. The whole purpose I wanted to have this advisory committee was to be able to take advantage of those folks who are in the weeds and in the trenches for the tourism side of things. Make sure we are hitting the mark when we have to be more strategic with our marketing dollars. That the print advertising is becoming so expensive. So if we're going to do it, we have to do it well. We have to know where we're advertising, where our market is, so that we're seeing the return on our investment. And we know the return on our investment because they're actually coming here. We're talking to them. They're posting things on Facebook about Front Royal. The things as simple as the trolley, it's, you know, for 2 months for us to have the trolley go to the AP or to the trailhead, we have gotten so much coverage from the Facebook groups on there talking about Front Royal compared to other major cities, and the fact that we have something as simple as a trolley to pick them up and bring them downtown. So the word is out there, you know, with some of these new businesses that are coming into town. That's only going to enhance what we're providing.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
gonna
okay.
ask the same question again because I don't think I understood it the first
Okay.
time. Under financial matters, when
Mhm.
it talks about the Joint Tourism Advisory Committee is authorized to apply for, accept, and expend gifts, grants, or donations from public-private sources to enable committee to carry out its objectives. Is reading that aloud for everybody else who's here. But what I'm getting at is, if you have let's say, a budgeted funds, you will have the authority to expend those as the committee desires without having to go back through other channels to approve. Is that correct?
That's the way.
That's the desire for it?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I would like to see happen, and it just, I'm having a hard time understanding the language that gives you the authority to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. If we can eliminate the speed bumps so that we can, once we've agreed, we know what our marching orders are, and what we want to try to achieve, we can get
That's
it
what I
done
would
in a
like to see
timely
happen,
fashion.
yes, so that's what I was trying to understand with this.
Anyone else? Thank you, Felicia. All right. Item number 2, teetering of adoption of section 66-11-1 teetering restrictions for dog and canines. Let's see. Town attorney, before you take over, Doug, I know council's aware that the liaison committee has been discussing this. Doug will explain a little bit more, but in order for the county to enforce, we need to adopt, and at no cost to us. It's just a formality that in order for them to enforce it in town, we need to have the same code. Doug?
That's correct. This has been brought to the town's attention, both from, yeah, there you are, Malcolm Barr, and also animal control. And the county wanted to take it up one step at a time, first tethering before doing anything maybe more extensive. But practical experience and observation has shown that certain dog owners are not always as kind to their animals as we would always hope, and keep their animals out in extreme cold, extreme heat, and other extreme weather conditions. And so animal control currently has no practical means to enforce a way of keeping animals from really not being having the owners be cruel to the animals. So this proposed ordinance mirrors what the county has done, and also has followed what a number of other jurisdictions throughout the state have done, and it is to protect the animals not only from extreme weather conditions, but also very young animals, very small animals, and female animals who are in heat from unwanted male attention. So this is the proposed ordinance that has been drafted, and it's been sent to the attention of Warren County Animal Control, and Animal Control is good with it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Jake?
So does this mean that if it is relatively cold outside and your neighbor feels like you are not bringing your dog in the house and they're out back, that they can call animal control on you to have them come out and make you take care of your animal?
If it meets
It has to meet the criteria.
the criteria of the ordinance, and the Animal Control finds as an objective fact that
But who's going to make that call? Animal control is going to come out and then do the evaluation.
Mhm. And ultimately, it would be a judge who makes the call,
Yeah.
based on the evidence that's presented.
And council, this is just, actually Doug and the county attorney kind of worked on this for like 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, at least.
So if it's
Yeah.
if it's greater than 90 degrees and the dog's in the shade, then that can be considered animal cruelty.
Well, I would hope that Animal Control would use some common sense.
But how it's spelled out here is if it's greater than 90 degrees, it's considered animal
It
cruelty.
could be, and that doesn't mean that town council would have to adopt this ordinance. This was just what was proposed by the county. If you don't feel that that's... The other thing too is prosecution. Whoever the attorney is that's prosecuting, either the Commonwealth's attorney or the town attorney, doesn't have to prosecute a case. These are a class 3 misdemeanor. And if the facts of the case don't warrant a prosecution, it wouldn't be prosecuted. Animal control, but by the same token, wouldn't have to do it. If you've got 91 degrees and the animal's in the shade, I would certainly hope animal control would not feel compelled to issue a summons.
But they could.
They could.
Under this.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's very much like jaywalking. You know, if it's South Street and you've got somebody who's jaywalking in heavy traffic, jaywalking ticket may be in order. But if you're in Main Street at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's no traffic, I doubt a policeman would issue a summons for jaywalking.
The part that I'm struggling with, Doug, and I'm trying to understand, under B, item number 3 times the length of the dog or other canine, I can see the guy out there now running a tape measure. I mean, do we have to get that specific? Is that what they want?
State code.
Say again?
State code.
State code.
This is all based on
I
the
think
state
it boils
code.
down to, Doug, that somebody takes their dog outside on a little small leash and teeters him to something and leaves him, you know? And this ordinance, like Doug said, mirrors the county. County needs the mirroring of the ordinance so that the dog warden can, animal control can do his job.
And you have to remember, Virginia is a Dillon rule state, and localities are only allowed to adopt such ordinances that the state allows them to adopt. So we're pretty much constrained in how far or how little we can go.
What are we asking for tonight on this? if we
Move
want?
forward. And I think it's maybe similar to having one of the animals left in a hot car.
Yeah, that's exactly
Very
what it is.
similar to where somebody could call to protect them. It's for the protection of the animals and also the owners. You know, sometimes people have kids in the back seat of the car and they forget they got a kid in the back seat, so they could actually forget they have the dog outside. So,
Yeah. This isn't something that happens or comes up very often, but occasionally, you know, you've got people that don't use a whole lot of common sense.
yeah. And
Most people that have dogs, it's like most people who have kids, love their pets.
and we have
love their
people that are
kids.
very passionate of this and protecting
Mhm.
four-legged friends of ours, so,
Yeah.
We do also have a couple people in town that leave their dogs tethered outdoors overnight
yeah.
for long periods of time during the day. I can see if animal control is going to try to enforce this, they're going to need something that's uniform.
It's gonna get, the problem I got, when you get down to very specifics like that, you know, it's gonna come back. Somebody's gonna say, well, that one there is 12 feet longer and
Yeah.
now the dog can choke himself because he gets wrapped up. When you get that specific in something, it, to me.
I guess the good part, Bill, is we do not prosecute, we will not prosecute. It's all up to the county and I guess, is that correct, Doug?
It is. We don't have
This
any
is just
role.
to accommodate,
So we're giving them the authority to do so.
yes, but they're taking all responsibility and
We just don't want two sets of regulations. One,
yeah.
We
For the
don't
animal.
currently have one, right?
huh?
We don't currently have
No.
one.
There's not one in the county either. But we don't want the animal control to have to consult two different sets of regulations.
Right.
I was just reading the strangulation piece, and I'm starting to see the other side. I know we need this. I'm a dog lover, I appreciate that, but, you know, sometimes we get too specific.
Yep.
I guess animal control has to be specific, correct?
They do, because
Yes.
if you're gonna prosecute in court, you can't have a fuzzy law.
Well, what is adequate shelter? I mean,
Well, I've got the state
That's
code
defined
here.
in the
They-
state code.
I saw the state code, but it's not here.
Very vague.
Yeah,
So-
I've got it.
I mean, that's my point, is like, who's gonna be determining that? And frankly, whatever's in here is gonna be your next door neighbor reporting you to animal control.
Well,
Jake, or can we let Carol, she's back there
Oh,
biting
sure,
at the bit
yeah.
to say something. Carol, could you come up here to the podium, please? I know you're busting to say something. And we definitely want to hear from you, so. You couldบอกMalcolm with, support if you wanted to.
I'd just like to say that I've been doing a community outreach for dogs for about 4 years. And up until I started doing that, I had no idea the number of dogs that are kept in the conditions that they are in the town and in the county. When you say it happens on occasion, well, I would beg to differ. I have seen dogs chained to a tree. I have seen them live in a camper shell with no floor, no covering on the front, so that they're exposed to the elements. And when you call animal control, I used to be the person that thought, when you call animal control, they go and they can take care of it and everything's good. That's not the case, because they have to go by the state code of Virginia, which it states that a dog has to have adequate shelter. That simply means that they have to have a roof over their head. It could be a piece of plywood over a wire crate. And I've seen dogs in 20-degree weather that have absolutely no protection from the elements. They are chained outside 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I've called animal control and said, you know, part of my community outreach, I offer free straw, I offer free dog houses, free outdoor kennels, the 10 by 10 kennels that people graciously donate. I have fundraisers to try to help these people get their dogs off the chain and get some protection. But some people accept that and some people don't. We like to think that people have common sense, but they just don't. I have 3 dogs and I take care of them, and I have a lot of friends that do the same. But unfortunately, not everybody takes care of their animals. And there has to be something in place to say you have to do certain things. And it's sad that you have to do that, but you do. You know, I've asked animal control, can you tell people that they need to have straw in 20-degree weather for their dog? No, they can't require that. It's not in the state code of Virginia under adequate care. There's nothing in there that says they have to have any bedding. If they have, like I said, if they have a piece of plywood over a wire crate and it's on a frozen ground, that's what they have. So, you know, just in the things that I've seen in the last 4 years, yes, we definitely need to have an ordinance in place that gives animal control the authority to require these people to have some common sense.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone have any questions for Carol before you leave? None? Yes. Yes, I'm getting ready.
Oh.
Yes.
Didn't know you saw him.
Yes, he snuck in behind me. Malcolm, would you like to address the council? You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I want to support pretty much everything that Carol has said, and to thank the both attorneys, particularly you, Doug. We discussed this last January, and here we have something approaching what I hope to see when I asked if the attorneys could get themselves together and come up with a proposed ordinance. Like Carol, I've got problems with a couple of these things, and you've discussed the this size of or length of the tether. I measured my miniature pug today, and she was 16 inches long, and I don't think that she would take much to 48-inch tether. Not that she should be left out in the open anyway. I also discussed this with Pola, my 70-pound husky, and she's not much for the length of the tether either. I think given a proper tether and a proper collar, there isn't much harm in them strangling themselves. Maybe I'm wrong, I've never even thought about that. But in any event, I have a concern specifically about C under B, I think it is, the adequate shelter. And I'm with Carol on this. It leaves the animal control people without a specific. Anybody can say a dog kennel is adequate when it may be adequate for one animal but not another. We've had a situation in Rockland of late where a Great Pyrenean was left in the middle of the yard on on a tether which was probably about the size of 3 times his size. But the adequate shelter was a too small dog kennel. But the animal control, as was reported to me, didn't cite the owner, but suggested that they take the dog in to quote-unquote adequate shelter. It was taken out of the yard in the 90-degree weather and parked in a barn, garage, I guess a disused garage type thing. But the adequate is, Doug, help is a concern to me.
Doug, what did you come up on when it comes to the adequate? It was very vague.
Yeah, it's defined, what the ordinance is, provided adequate shelter under Virginia Code, Section 3.2, 6500. Adequate shelter is defined by Virginia Code 32, 6500. It says, adequate shelter means provision of and access to shelter that is suitable for the species, age, condition, size, and type of each animal, provides adequate space for each animal, is safe and protects each animal from injury, rain, sleet, snow, hail, direct sunlight, the adverse effects of heat or cold, physical suffering, and impairment of health, is properly lighted, is properly clean, enables each animal to be clean and dry except when detrimental to the species, and for dogs and cats, provides a solid surface, resting platform, pad, floor mat, or similar device that is large enough for the animal to lie on in a normal manner and can be maintained in a solitary manner. Under this chapter, shelters whose wire, grid, or floor mats, 1, permit the animal's feet to pass through the openings, 2, sag under the animal's weight, or 3, otherwise do not protect the animal's feet or toes from injury, are not adequate shelter. So the way I read this is adequate shelter is determined on a case-by-case basis for each individual animal.
Doug, is the town legally allowed to require anything more specific than what is required in the state code?
It would be very difficult, and the reason I say that is because, and this brings up Mr. Seelock's issue, is it's almost impossible to see in advance as to how you would write an ordinance that you could foresee each animal in advance and what type of shelter and climate condition the animal would be subjected to in advance. So all you can really say is it's got to have adequate shelter for a particular animal in a particular circumstance, and it's a factual case-by-case determination.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Does anyone have any problems not moving it to the next agenda? I mean,
I don't feel like it's, I mean, you can certainly move it to the next agenda,
Yeah.
but the way it's written, I don't feel like it's something that's gonna, that I would vote for hands down. I think it needs some work.
Do we know what the state is of this measure on the county side? I know that they were working on something, trying to get it passed in tandem.
Doug, they haven't done anything on theirs yet, or Malcolm, have the county done anything yet that you know of, Carol?
No.
Nothing yet, okay. We're just trying to make sure this thing is what we want, what's needed. Jacob, could you converse with Doug to let him know your concerns that would get you to ultimately vote for support?
Am I the only one here?
No.
that's-
Get ready to say, if
I mean,
anybody,
Okay, so
Yeah.
before you single out.
I want to say.
oh, you're not saying about no
I mean,
meeting.
this is something that's going to have to be passed through the county before animal control can even be
Exactly.
enforced. So, I mean, I'd like them to go ahead and bring forward the amendment, the ordinance that they want to see, and we can have a discussion. I mean, this right now, I had thought Doug was going to be talking with their attorney to see what's going on. I mean, I'd like to see the commitment from the county before we move forward on this, as far as adopting.
Doug, when you go back and talk to the county attorney, after you talk to Mr. Seelock and Morris and myself and John and Jake, talk to the council, take our concerns back to see if it could be milled into are meshed into this ordinance that's already written to get them the line out, and then they can take it before their county and town. And, you know, we have time on this, no doubt. We want to do it right. Yes, Malcolm?
Could I make a suggestion that the attorneys talk to animal control and get some direction from them on, to give them more power to prefer charges where they're needed,
Doug, have y'all been in
rather than
contact
making
with animal
on-the-spot
control or-
decisions.
Yes, animal control has already signed off on this.
Oh, they have?
They told me they have. We've got the
Okay.
emails from them.
I didn't know they have. Okay. If it satisfies them, but it strikes me that they're, frankly, perhaps not doing the job that we expect them to, speaking on behalf of the dogs.
I don't know about that, but they've signed off on this.
Okay, I didn't, okay.
In the beginning, it was my understanding that we were going to be given the opportunity to sit down with animal control, with Lavenda Denny from the shelter, and with the town and county attorneys, so that we could all give our input before we moved forward. And that was never done.
I talked to Lavenda yesterday, and she didn't know anything about this meeting or anything about your meetings. She said she'd never been approached.
We've got emails from animal control, and I know Mr. Sonnet, the assistant town attorney, was working with animal control and with Dan Whitten on this, and I mean, I've seen the emails.
Hey, Doug, I think to make things a little bit clearer, Doug and the town and the county attorney were given instructions by the committee at the liaison to come up with something. It wasn't to involve other people, it was to get it legal to where we could bring it before the council and present it before the board of supervisors. I don't think anybody omitted anyone on purpose. I don't know where that came from, but it didn't come from the liaison committee meeting, so.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think anybody's been admitted. What I'm confused about is, I understand why we write things in vagueness, and I understand why we put some things that are extended. But where my confusion comes, you're talking about moving forward, and this is already a joint effort. We sat in the liaison committee with the county, and this was already pushed forward. Now, what is the next step? I reckon that's where my confusion, because there is some things that's
Well, there's
questionable.
going to be a pause, correct? You're going to take the suggestions and questions from council. You're going to mesh them up with the county attorney and rework it and see if we can get a mirror. Whether it's mirrored from the town to the county.
So what we're doing is pushing it forward so the county can take a look
This
at
is
it.
what I was told by the county attorney, that this is what the county wants. And that's why I'm
So it's
presenting
not
it to
really
you.
approval, it's just pushing it forward for
Right.
their consideration.
Right. I was told that this is what the county wants, that the animal control is good with it, and what's town council's take on it?
But was the animal control part of your discussions, Doug, with your opposite number in the county? Were they invited in to give any recommendations?
My understanding from Mr. Sonnet and from the emails I've seen from animal control is that this ordinance was sent to them. In fact, the first version was written by animal control.
Okay.
And that's when Mr. Whitten reworked it, drafted it up, sent it to the town, and Mr. Sonnet and I worked on it and sent it back to the county attorney, and he approved what we did.
All right, let's end this conversation. Doug, get with the council members and get with the county attorney and see if they can highlight theirs. All right. Who else we have in the audience? Rob, let's go to number 4. Let's skip 3 for the time being. Rob's here. just kind of hang loose a minute, Rob. Let's go with proposal to make Main Street one-way. Councilman Seelock.
When I was approached with this project by the downtown group of members, we had discussed this project earlier in the former Mayor Dar's committee for enhancement for the downtown area. And this was one of our major proposals. So when I was approached by the downtown group to kind of champion it for the council, it was pushing this agenda that had previously come out from the enhancement committee, and that's why I'm helping them move forward. And Rob is going to come up and present his presentation tonight on exactly what we're looking for.
Rob, would you like to come up to the podium and address the council? Hopefully you have...
Got us all warmed up, Ron. We're ready to go.
Thank you, Mayor, members of town council. Thank you for letting me skip the line here. Appreciate that.
Well, you have things to do too.
And thank you to Councilman Seelock for pushing this forward and getting us on the agenda tonight. Not so much a presentation as just hitting a couple of the key things we're looking at. I'll keep it short and simple and open it up to questions and feedback. But this is coming from several landlords and business owners on Main Street. It's not from a formal organization. It's something that's come out of sort of constant discussions on how we can improve economic vitality in our downtown. And this was a suggestion that came up about a month ago. And given the recent investment and forthcoming investment on the capital on the private side and capital influx coming to some of the renovations and buildings in town, we thought the timing might be good. And also, as Councilman Seelock mentioned, this idea has been discussed at various levels of formality in the past, so it's not an idea we came up with. But the timing seemed good given that the relationship between landlords and business owners seems to be really healthy at the moment. So that's the backdrop to that. But as we mentioned in our memo, and I would like to just point out, there was a typo in the submission. The proposal is to create one-way travel on, or one-way traffic flow on Main Street from Royal down to Chester in an eastward direction, not westward. So I think that change got to the councilman's packets, but for the public following along. And this is all about improving economic vitality and creating a better sense of an easier ability for our visitors and local patrons alike to park. Both it increases the capacity, depending on whose math you're looking at, between 12 and 15 spots increase onto Main Street. Increases the ease of parking by going to an angled parking structure versus parallel. It is a relatively simple adjustment to make once the traffic is rerouted and signage and wayfinding is commensurate with that. And the group also said this is something that the town could explore or implement on a 3-year basis with a sundown clause. So there would be an opportunity, if this didn't produce anything fruitful, to return to our current arrangement. But I would like to just reemphasize this is coming from private business. It's something they believe will enhance the ability of patrons to park and frequent our downtown businesses. And we strongly feel there is no negative impact of it. And then we can debate, I think, a lot of the different positive features that we see from it. So with that, I will step back for a second. That's sort of the nuts and bolts of what we're requesting town to consider.
Joe, next step, we would move it to the planning. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my
Because it
understanding.
hasn't been to planning yet.
Planning.
Jerry, has this been to planning?
It has not.
Okay. Would you please expedite as fast as you can possibly get it to the planning to get some activity worked out, just get some activities worked out and get it back to us, Jake?
But just for clarification, Jeremy, variations of this have been to planning. So you guys have looked at one way or walking mall or changes in that street. Is that correct?
Well,
Because
planning commission's
these plans are resurrected.
Planning commission has been consulted with in regards to the community development block grant. Part of that was to study possible rearrangements for the downtown, including one-way. Wasn't specifically got into, no. The plan that was prepared here was something that town staff had worked on. We've discussed it with the planning commission, but they haven't been involved in the process yet.
Okay.
Last site plan we got totally different than this one, not totally, but there's been some changes. I don't think council needs to see that until after the planning, then the planning can get it back to us, because I understand there's been some changes with no parking, no unloading and all this, so. But if you could get it to the planning as soon as possible.
Do we have a timeline on that?
As soon as possible. I'm getting ready to, and make sure you keep up with Rob, please, to keep him informed of the process and when they're going to be meeting. And do you have an idea of maybe when the first meeting would occur, this being August?
Well, we can start talking about it next week, next Wednesday.
And then they would bring it for a public hearing, or would it be entirely up to us to bring it before the public hearing? Or would there be 2 public hearings? I'm just trying to get a little bit of...
I think I'd want to discuss it with them as far as what procedures and what information they want to review first. But I think if we started the work next Wednesday in discussion and report back to you as far as the time.
Joe, let Joe know what's going on so that he can keep us informed by email.
Okay.
For the process, yes.
As for, sorry, John has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, John, I didn't see you over here behind me. Hello, John.
My question is for Rob, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So Rob, thank you for bringing this before us. I know this is something that was discussed back in 2015. I'm kind of wondering, because the site plan that we have here does cover the area where the change would occur. I'm wondering if you have any sense from the group that's supporting this, how the rest of the flow of traffic in the area is going to work. Are we going to do another street like Jackson or Stonewall in one direction, or Peyton Street or Chester Street? I mean, I live on the east side of town now. A year ago, I was living on the west side of town, and this would have been perfect for me because it goes with the flow of where I'm heading on Main Street. This would be a disincentive for someone on my side of town to get down to the shops on Main Street. So I'm wondering, has there been any like further development of that, the traffic flow issue that would come from this?
No, the rendering you have is the inclusive request for traffic adjustment. We have parallel 2-way streets with Jackson and Peyton. And one of the reasons behind, and just also to emphasize, traffic still can flow in off of Commerce. And there's several left turn options if you're coming west from Commerce before you get to the gazebo, and then there's the right turn into the tourism parking lot. If by that point you're still heading west on Main Street, you would be actually funneled down Chester, which would again introduce you to the bulk of the town's parking, which a lot of visitors and residents alike are not even aware of. So our belief is that this actually channels people coming or traveling west to the areas you want them to go, which is available parking. And what you have currently on Main Street is a thoroughfare where there's heavy traffic, but not many folks that stop, frequent and patron the businesses. So it's great for driving through and looking at buildings, but it's not doing much for the business environment.
I mean, I'm on Peyton pretty frequently, and I know that it's 2 ways. I also know in the evenings when there is a lot of parking being used, cars going in and out, I suspect there's probably going to be something that council is going to be asked to do abatement-wise if we have a lot of additional traffic back there, because cars do like to pull right out of the lot all along there. Something else that council is looking at as well, but I'm trying to get ahead of. I'm trying to keep all of this in mind as we move forward. We have some buildings back there right now that are working on proposals coming to council to put like loading docks back there to have their trucks there instead of disrupting traffic on Main Street. So it is something that's probably going to have to be considered as well from a traffic flow standpoint. We want this to be as welcoming and inviting a solution as possible.
Well said. Jake?
Yeah, just a couple comments. Well, I am excited about it. I'm glad that McDougal about this for council. If you think about it too, I kind of have the impression now that that the main street already has kind of one-way parking, because when you're going one direction, you can't swing a U-E and park. So in effect, we currently have one-way parking. But my other comment was actually directed more towards Jeremy, that as this is taken to Planning Commission, if we can give some direction on the fact that the first option that I personally would like to see is the least cost, that has the least cost impact on making changes. In other words, can we make relatively quick changes to this if it's something that council desires to move forward on with relatively little cost? Because we certainly can start replacing curb and gutter and changing everything and, you know, get up to $50,000, $100,000 price tag, which would probably vote this down. So I'd be curious to know if there's a way to do it with the least amount of impact. Does that make sense?
I think Jeremy had hit on the CDBG grant funding from that would be used for Main Street, and I think the cost was like $10,000 to make the changes, so it's not a tremendous amount of money, but.
The way this thing was approached was part of it through the grant, was looking at the top down and how it improves the whole piece. And there's going to be issues, I know that. There's sidewalk issues out here. Jeremy's going to have to be faced with the planning. You know, not only one way, but the directional piece. How many times have you seen somebody down here that can't parallel park? Or if you open the door and got your door knocked off? You know, consider all those things. There's negatives and positives. These alleyways, what direction are they going to go? You know, we have festivals or events. And that's why I'm hoping that the Planning Commission is going to answer some of these questions and bring through some thoughts that you and I would not know about and even consider. So I'm hoping that the planning group is going to present all this so we know, and what the the public works group is going to have to help us understand what it's going to cost to do what we need.
You know, and following on Bill's lead, we could vote next week to make it one way. But this council has, for the last 7 months, wanted to do things right. And doing it right, we need to take it to the planning. In the meantime, to speed along, to expedite a few things, the town manager can figure out how we're going to do in the future, as soon as planning, how we're going to do our public hearing, how we're going to get the message out. Because it's not only going to affect businesses on Main Street and the people that use Main Street, but the people outside. So everything has to be brought into the equation. So Jeremy, Joe, if we could, I'm sorry, if we could, oh, sorry, John.
Do we need to vote to refer to Planning Commission before they can take it up?
Wouldn't think so.
No, I don't think you need to.
Yeah, we could put it on next week's vote.
Yeah, do that.
The agenda.
Yeah.
Therefore,
But still
we-
start moving
Just-
ahead on
just
Jeremy.
to
Start on Wednesday.
Yeah, start.
dot the
start
I
moving
and cross the
forward.
T and
Will do.
all that good stuff.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll keep it legal, but we'll take a few steps ahead. So. Anything else you'd like to add, sir? Thank you for coming down.
Appreciate your time.
And thank you for your investment in town.
Mayor,
To be considered.
can we
Yeah, we'll move
offer
it to
the
talk
same
about it.
courtesy for the last agenda? Because we have two parents in the audience
Absolutely,
already. Get home.
absolutely.
Let's do that.
If you would like to do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be right.
All right, the last one is going to be number 6, smoking at school bus stops. And if I had known that, I would have already did that. But I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Thank you. Smoking at the bus stops, Councilman Morrison.
Right. So we're going to educate ourselves since this is a work session. I'm going to allow Doug to do that. But beforehand, to set the tone, I'm going to allow for Mr. Osorio to come up and then for Ms. Griffith to come up.
Okay, Mr. Osorio, would you like to come here, please? How you been?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
Good afternoon. I'm a parent of 3 kids, and we have noticed that when kids go to the bus stop, I see other parents also, and they're smoking just in front of kids. And we know that smoking kills people. It causes cancer, so that's a necessary thing to expose kids to smoking, okay, so secondhand smoking. So I thought it was a good idea to, to have an ordinance that prevents that, to prevent kids to inhale that smoke. So I passed that notice to my friend, Chris Morrison, and I told him, I was really concerned about it.
Thank you.
The mayor has no problems moving this forward. Doug, if there's any council member here that has any negativity with it, how long would it take us to make an ordinance?
Well, it would probably take from start to finish about 2 months when you go through the public hearings and the advertisements. But I do think that you could direct the town manager to go ahead and put up signs. We couldn't enforce it with criminal summonses, but I think it would deter most people from smoking until you could actually enforce it by having an ordinance in effect. The town manager has town manager and the town council has general control and authority over the public rights of way of the town. And so I think if you wanted to just go ahead and put up the signs, it would have a deterrent effect, and you couldn't
Chris,
enforce it in court.
We don't have current signage though, do we?
Would you like to come up and speak?
Sure.
Fourth?
Well, were you calling me or him?
Yeah, you come up, sir.
We're stuck with him. Thank you for joining our work session.
Thank you for having me. I was actually shocked to hear that people could smoke at school bus stops. I'm a school employee and I also have 4 children that attend school here. And I've looked into quite a few other counties. I know the city of Winchester has ordinances that include the signs that your attorney was talking about that prohibit people from smoking in most public areas that would convey as school property when children are waiting on it, even though it's technically public property. So I just came out tonight because I wanted to support that. So, I mean, we have students in this county with varying needs. We have some that are oxygen proficient, and so they couldn't potentially come to a bus stop if someone's smoking there because it could send them into a situation where they're going to have to be medevaced out to a children's hospital. So I feel like it's really important.
Mr. Mayor, can I qualify my last response?
Absolutely.
I think you can pass an emergency ordinance in light of what the lady said, so you could shorten the time.
I'm thinking along that line, move this thing rapidly. I'm not a proponent of signs at the bus stops because the hundreds and hundreds of bus stops that we have, and I've discussed this with Mr. Morrison, I don't think it would be doable. It would be cumbersome. And anybody has a sign in front of their house, just like somebody put a 25-mile speed limit in front of someone's house. First thing they did was call Doug, find out why they put a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in front of their house. I think educating the public, number one, would be the first step. That number two would be to pass an ordinance, whether it's emergency or not. And I think Jake or Mr. Morrison would like to have the emergency, get it done now. I don't think anybody on council is going to have any heart problem with passing this. I mean, there's no smoking pretty much everywhere, and if we can protect our children, and council, what do you think? Mr. Morrison, do you think we should do the emergency ordinance and
I do. Yeah, I'd like to.
And try it, and let's not do signage because until we see. Jake?
Go ahead.
I'm not exactly sure I understand the emergency ordinance. I am definitely supportive and in favor. The
Just
line
moves it quicker.
Moves it quicker. It's 2 months they don't have to re-smoke involuntarily.
No, I understand that. I guess what I'm thinking about is kind of the motion to expedite this process, and where else have we used that in the past?
These are tools in our tool chest that we can bring out that the town attorney can alert us to. It's like having a special meeting. I mean, we've only done it twice. Some councils don't do it in 4 years.
Well, it's a little bit different because we're moving forward before public hearings on this at all, right?
Just doing one reading instead of two.
You just uses one reading instead of two.
Oh.
That's just a
So we're
town-
still doing a public hearing?
Yeah.
That's why I was asking,
Yeah.
for the
We have to
clarification.
vote for one versus
The two readings is simply a self-imposed requirement by the town
Okay.
code. It's not a state code requirement.
That's.
We're not going to
what I wanted
circumvent
clarification.
the procedure and leave the public out of this. The public needs to be,
Okay.
to have their input, just like we did tonight. I mean, we can't just enact an ordinance because a couple people want it. We have to do it because the town wants it, and you understand that too. You know, it's,
So I guess
yeah.
I have some questions on process too then for you, Doug. What's the criteria for that to come into play?
Public health and safety.
Okay. And then it would be for adoption on first reading. Is that a suspension of town code is what we would be doing?
No, it's, the town code actually provides for.
It provides for it, so the margin of passage for the measure doesn't change at all. It simply says you can do it with one reading
Mine,
instead of two.
as I recall, it does not change it.
Okay, thank you.
like I said, Doug, Jim, go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Steele.
My concern is, I've been at the gym at the Valley Health, and I watch people smoke, and there's clear signs out there that says this is a non-smoking sign. And then I have to look at my law enforcement friend in the back there. We're gonna ask them to enforce these signs.
I think,
I don't think it's any different than they have to enforce if a 17-year-old goes in and buys a pack of cigarettes.
yeah.
You know, it's their job, correct, Captain? How's your view on this? Can you stand up and tell us your view of how you feel on your side of the coin for enforcement? If you're riding by, if we pass it, you're riding by, you see somebody smoking.
If we were to see someone,
Okay,
the question is, number one, how are we enforcing it, which is going to be in how the ordinance would be crafted.
okay.
The second part would be, how do you want it enforced? Do you want it enforced proactively, or do you want it enforced by complaint? And the third part is, how many bus stops are you going to do this with? How many bus stops are technical bus stops in town? How do you define what a bus stop is?
I think a blanket ordinance was going to cover anywhere children gather to board a bus. Maybe that would be an ordinance, I don't know.
I'm just asking y'all to think about the
Sure.
sections in town and the potential resources that would go to enforcing a smoking ordinance. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm all for
Sure,
that.
absolutely.
I'm for it with my kids also.
Well, we don't want to pass an ordinance that has a piece either. So.
Exactly. We'll enforce what you want enforced, and to the ordinance, we'll do what we need to do on that.
Yeah, but
My
it
question
can't
is,
be so
it
vague
gets
that
tricky
you
and
don't
it's
have a
vague.
clear understanding
Exactly.
how you enforce it.
Exactly. It can't be vague. We have many things that are vague now. It can't be that.
Doug, did you hear that?
I did.
Not too vague. Please make it as strong as possible so when an officer rides by the bus stop where children are gathered, someone's smoking, they can stop and take care of it.
Well, what I'll do is what I typically do. I'll review the ordinances of other localities, and I'll try to craft one that I think is readily enforceable, and before I send it to town council, I'll run it by the police department and ask them what they
There you
think.
go. Yeah.
This would not be
Fairfax
enforced on
County.
county bus stops?
Fairfax.
This is town. They are town bus stops, but they are, I guess, and that's another vague area, they're county bus stops. So, Mr. Morrison and his companions would have the opportunity to go to the Board of Supervisors and ask them for the same support for bus stops. So, you know, we're town citizens, and we're taking care of our town citizens the best we can, and we'll move forward with the public hearing. Doug will work with the ordinance, and the captain and his crew will take care of enforcement. But I think once the word gets out there that there is an ordinance, that people that, and most of the time there's usually 2 or 3 parents, if someone sees someone smoking, they will remind them politely that, hey, there's an ordinance about smoking. And so it's a good, strong possibility it'll work. So, okay. Yes, Jeff?
Mayor, do you want this to go straight to official meeting once Doug's done his draft?
Yes, absolutely. We want to move forward with it. Whatever procedures we need to do, every step we need to take.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
considering that one of our number, or two of our number are not here tonight, would it maybe be wiser to bring it back to work session once the draft is done, so we can work out any issues and bugs in work session?
Councilman, we can do anything the council would like to do. If that's
I'd like
what
to
your
request
prerogative,
that, if that's
we can
the case.
absolutely, because it's not going to get written and everything's not going to happen overnight, and we can bring it back to a work session to include our other two councilmen.
I'd like a chance to discuss it as a full council together
Absolutely.
before we take it and put it on the agenda.
I would rather discuss it in a work session and still get this done,
Sure.
by the end of the month, but I would rather do that than
Yeah,
a
Doug
public
can
hearing
start
before
working on
meeting.
it. You know, we have a good consensus here that this is.
I mean, it
the
sounds
right
like
thing to
everybody's
do.
really supportive of it, just wanted to
Yeah.
see the
Just
final document.
The final mechanics of it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for coming in and joining us tonight. All right, now let's move back to continued discussion of property maintenance. Director of Planning and Zoning, we have discussed this several times. What was it? Chris wasn't here at the last meeting, but John, do you remember what we touched on? We didn't
I
actually
wasn't here on
discuss,
that.
we actually didn't discuss this because we postponed because Chris wasn't here, but we had talked about something, but we've done beat this around the corner. Are we ready to move it to an informative public hearing? Not as a vote, but just to have a public hearing to get their input? John?
We've had some time to live with it. There isn't anything in here that surprises me at all. It seems to comply mostly with everything that Jeremy has talked to us about. He's given, I think, he's done 2 different presentations on it at this point. We've discussed it multiple times. I don't have any problem moving forward myself. I'm just wondering if Jeremy has anything else that he wanted to bring to us tonight.
No, I'm just ready to discuss it, and I know we had talked about scheduling a public meeting, so I guess in that regard, how do you want us to advertise this?
But not a vote that night, just information from the public, and then we'll schedule 2 weeks from then, because I had already set the tone for this to make sure that we hear, if anybody comes, we're gonna hear them, and we're not just gonna blatantly vote that night. We're gonna take their recommendations, their comments, and we're gonna mull over them like we have for the appointment of the seat, so.
Do you want staff to proactively outreach property managers,
You know,
civic organizations, and just let them know?
10 heads, 20 heads, 30 heads is better than one. Yes, absolutely. We need all the information we can get, all the help we can get. Not everybody's going to be happy. The good landlords are going to be mad. The slumlords are going to be mad. So anyway we go, we're not going to be liked.
I would rather hear it at a public hearing than after a vote or after the fact. So I'm not afraid of more people showing up that are going to want to weigh in on this.
That's what we want. We want people to come and tell us, you know, so that, okay, we can move it as soon as we get it on. Okay, just keep in mind, gentlemen, the room will be packed, and you'll hear a lot.
When is this?
so-
Monday coming up?
There before.
And an extra hour?
Joe, is this Monday coming up?
No, the mayor set the tone. If there's 30, 40 people there, they'll get 2
All right, give me
minutes.
plenty.
and No duplication.
Give me lots of heads up.
Pretty much, people come
Be
to
busy
public
in the
hearings and
next few weeks.
they show a good attitude. And with knowing that we're not going to vote that night, even makes it better because they feel that they're going to come and say something, that you're actually going to hear them and think about it. So, and it does, and repeating myself, it does come with a cost. All right, we've already covered the bus stop, number 6.
Really quick, Doug, can we send by email? Can I get the draft as a PDF? If I'm in the Adobe, this might be a joke question. If I'm in the Adobe reading off our agenda, can I send that as one attachment as a PDF so that if somebody wants an opportunity to look at what we're about ready to adopt, they can read through it.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. When it says send by email, it sends out one attachment. Okay. Okay.
All right. Health insurance comparison. Council Mezza.
Yes, thank you. So, I think we discussed this at our last work session, and I brought up that I wanted to start the conversation about the health insurance for our employees and starting to evaluate it, continual evaluation, which we've done for the last, I believe, the last 16 months. We've talked about this. And so I think we've asked for some comparisons, and I believe Julie and Joe have put together a few matrices for us to look at. Were you going to have
Yeah, Julie's
talk
here.
about this? Okay.
And we're really
No.
just
Go on.
Come over to the podium, Julie. You've been here several times before. Now, can I just ask one quick question? Now, we're just hitting on this, studying cost factors, trying to get a handle on insurance. When are we going to be getting our study back on our compensation study?
we should have a rough draft in September.
Because I'm a little concerned that, you know, if we're going to be taking from this end, we're going to be needing to give it this end for them to take from this end. So let's just keep that in mind, so.
It was, but some things got pushed back.
Yeah.
And we should have it, I'm imagining, the Labor Day week or week after, that they'll be actually on site to present to council in a work session.
Our consultants got pushed back? Like the people who are doing the analysis got pushed back?
Right, but one of the big pieces of compensation survey was to get employees interacting with the process. And a part of that was job descriptions. And they had what they thought was an electronic way of employees being able to do that. And we ended up with quite a few employees having to do it handwritten. So then they had to take the handwritten piece and form it into a written document. And then each of the managers, for every employee that completed it, they had to actually enter it.
So we had employees writing their own job description?
They went through a process that asked them about various components of their job in order to get a standard across. If I'm a maintenance worker in the street, this is everything I do, and try to provide that standard of qualifications necessary to do the job. And then it's reviewed, or has been reviewed, by their various directors and department managers for the accuracy piece.
I didn't have a problem with that. I've been involved with that piece. But I still, Joe, what I don't understand is why is that holding up the process of understanding what the other communities are doing?
Right. Well, it's my understanding two things here.
Well, the
Number
job
one is-
description was a separate.
Right. My understanding, there's two issues here. One is we had 95% response back from our employees on this, which is high. So they have to go through all that. And then also this other process where the employees log in and tell PayPoint what they feel like their job description is. The whole process, I didn't want to rush the process. To me, I wanted very good quality information. So once the employees entered that information, I had to have all the managers review their employees' input and then make comparisons and changes to that. Also, the other component that's delayed us is the response from the other communities have given us their information on their pay scales. You know, we ask for that information, but sometimes we're at their leisure on giving us that information. I mean, we are going to be behind by about a month, but I say at the end of the day, you're going to have a great product to use. These things are uncontrollable at our hands at this point.
I told the mayor that I would champion that with you all. So I need to be fully informed as we move forward. So what I'm requesting is, because you know how I am with dates. If we got a date, I'm sitting here thinking August 20th, and I'm responding to my council members that August 20. And tonight I'm informed, no, it's going to be September. And that's not the way to do business. I should have been informed by email. I said, Bill, these are the things we've got going on. The person has got these issues and we're going to resolve, and then I can inform the council members exactly what is going on. And we're not surprised.
All right, I'll provide
Okay.
council tomorrow an update.
Would you please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where did we leave off?
Health
Okay.
insurance.
Floor's yours, Jane.
You're the
You want me
lead
to ask
man.
questions about this?
You are the lead man
Well,
here.
you can either ask questions or give me direction as to where you want me to go from here.
So, okay, biggest question that I had, I think was, so I understand that you broke out, well, how about this? I have a few questions that I can ask you just personally. You and I can talk about it, so I don't have to belabor it here for everybody else. But what I really wanted to see tonight is if this is changing or scaling down a plan, let's say 5% at a time, I don't know which spreadsheet to go off of. I'll go off the one you turned in. When you put total for employer cost of 1.6 million, some change, the reduction from 95 to 90% coverage is only 40,000.
Yeah, it isn't much, it's not much difference.
It's, so that's the part that I'm having a hard time understanding, because when we had this, and I've got to go back and look at my notes in budget, but when we talked about this in budget, when we were comparing all the health plans, it seemed like there was a significant amount more savings that way.
Well, remember that when we were talking, and we changed our plan structure completely, we dropped the highest end and we dropped down to the 250 plan, which is where the bulk of our employees are currently located. So that's going to skew the numbers from
So
where
this
we
is
started.
95, 90%, 85% payment of the 250 plan. So the
That's
plan
exactly
itself
right.
is not changing.
No, because what you gave me to use, to go by, when you handed it to me, you said, use this and base it off the current high program, which is the 250 plan.
Joe,
Okay.
you have something to say?
Yeah, I think
He
the
has
one
his
that
hand
you're
up.
referencing is the one where we're starting to fund HSA, where you see that
I
memo.
do see that, but actually this becomes more clear. So this is strictly a reduction of what we're paying, but is not a progression of going from a $250 deductible to a $500 deductible to a $1,500 deductible to
That's
a
accurate.
$3,000
That's accurate.
deductible. Okay. But
That's not what you told me, and that's why we
all
need
right.
to talk.
Do you still have the card I gave you? Because we can
Yes,
go
sir.
over that. We can do that.
Okay.
We can do that again.
Probably, yeah.
But in order to drop cost, so there's two components to this, and I'm sure you already understand this, Julie, but
Yeah.
for everybody else, there's two components of this. There's a reduction of employer funding, and I shouldn't even say it that way. It's really more putting the onus, responsibility up front to our employees at the plan that they're choosing to participate in. That's the 95, 90, 85% of what us as an employer would be funding. The other component of this would be changing your deductible, which has the largest impact on cost reduction. So currently, $100, or last year was $100 deductible, is that correct, Joe? Was last year $100 deductible?
No, I don't think we've ever had a $100 deductible. have we?
Julie?
Oh, did we go 250 to 500?
250 to
No,
500.
but we went, the 250 plan is 250 single, okay, 500 dual or family that we're currently on.
See, and I thought that.
But last year, we had I guess it was where we did have one level above the 250, didn't we? The I forgot what you called it.
It was $100.
It was $100. Yeah, it was $100. It was the expanded service that we did away with.
So my understanding was, you know, that we were going to be going to I thought it was 255 or 500, but a 500 across the board, but there wouldn't be an option for funding a $250 deductible. Regardless, the dollars on this will not change unless deductibles change. That's what I'm trying to say. Our funding portion, all we're doing is transferring costs to employees. So the dollars will stay the same. Does everybody understand that?
If the percentages change, then you could have
Okay.
some of that moving towards employees.
Right, but all we're doing is transferring money to employees, which was never the intent of this. The intent was to keep the cost relatively the same to employees, reducing what we as an employer are contributing. But in order for that to happen, you would have to change the deductibles. That's where the cost saving happens for the town without penalizing employees.
I mean, I felt we had multiple long conversations about that because that is dramatically out of alignment with the rest of the insurance marketplace right now. I mean, it is unheard of to have a $100 deductible plan in today's day and age.
So I guess, Joe, you might have to help me out on this. I'm not sure what the next steps are on this because, again, all we're doing is transferring more money to employees here, and the way that looks, I mean,
Right.
we'll get scourged for that, and that was never the intent. So how do I need to sit down with you and Julie? How do we need to do this? I mean, at the end of the day, even I think I'm not going to throw Chris under the bus here, but there's even a part of me that's like, tired of trying to figure out a way to communicate this appropriately and just say, figure out a way to reduce this by 10% or 20%. You guys do the rest. I mean, I don't know what's the next step here to convey this, but I feel like it's starting to go round and round and round, and it doesn't feel like it's that difficult for me.
I mean, it's fairly simple for us. We could pass a budget with 10% less in the health insurance line. But we could do that. I
Right.
prefer not to do it that way.
And I prefer not to do it that way because I feel like we can create a strategic plan for 5 years where it's not going to be overly burdensome to anybody, which was what I really advocated for a while ago.
Well, and that was my understanding when you gave me that slip of paper, but when, you know, you say work with the current numbers of where we have people, I went to the 250. That's why I made some of those notations at the bottom of this, because with the 250 plan, I couldn't do what you wanted me to do.
And don't get me wrong, Julie, I really appreciate it. I'm saying that there's communication. I'm trying to figure out how to convey what council's looking for with staff so that we can come together on the same page and create a plan that is going to be mutually beneficial for employees and the objective of what council's trying to achieve. So I feel like we've kind of painted the picture of what we're trying to achieve. I just don't know how to get there. I don't know how to, and that's what I'm trying to work for.
I have a little bit better direction right now after listening to you talk. I don't know about Julie. I have to let Julie speak for herself, but I have a little better idea now of the direction we need to go. Obviously, what we got here is not the direction you were wanting to head.
Well, it
is, but it's not.
Yeah.
Common sense tells me you just want a small reduction gradually.
I want to be able to communicate to our employees what we're trying to accomplish. I don't want to have an argument about it every year where employees are viewing this as, you know, we're just taking more and more away from them. And I wanted this to coincide with our compensation plan if we are going to be doing any kind of adjustments, market adjustments for salaries.
Right.
So in other words, we may not be voting on a budget item today, but we're going to be getting a compensation analysis in September. So I want to be able to say, here's the compensation analysis, here's our 5-year plan for our health insurance, which is one of our biggest ticket items in the budget. Here's how they're going to align and share that with our employees so that there's no surprises, no secrets, and they can feel like we're evaluating our total compensation in one piece.
That is part of a bigger plan,
Yes.
right? It's not just, well, we don't like the fact that we're spending over $1.6 million in insurance, we're just going to slash things.
No.
Which is the direction if we said cut this 20%, that's
Right,
what it would be.
and that's
today.
exactly what that would be. That's not ideal.
And the second part was to lay it out like you have here, Julie, where it shows us, you know, what the costs are going forward. And that's where the compensation plan will come the same way. We try to anticipate.
But if you want to do a program with the health savings, currently with what we offer, we only have one portion that allows for that, and that's the high deductible, and that high deductible is $2,800 single and $5,600 dual or family.
Right, and I understood that, and I think for the sake of conversation, because I don't want to confuse it, we can pull the HSA off. That could be an added benefit that we can throw back in if council desires them to do it.
That's basically what I did here.
Right, you broke that out really nice, but that would be an added benefit, again, for the sake of council, if we realized, hey, this is gonna be, you know, a $5,000 deductible might be really steep for employees to get to, we can choose to fund an HSA, which would offset that deductible for employees. It's just you wouldn't have to replenish it every year. So there's other ways to do this, but I was going to suggest, after seeing this too, Joe, I haven't really made myself available to meet with you guys and asking for this, and I had a quick meeting with Julie on the fly in the council chambers.
My meetings with you?
So anyways, I'm happy to schedule a couple meetings in, if you want me to. But
Yeah, I think
just
it
ask.
would be best, let me and Julie, we'll get together tomorrow and compare our notes, and yeah, definitely. I think I have a better direction. Do you, Julie?
Yes, it's where I thought we wanted to get, by the way you had plotted it out. However, I don't have a plan that kind of lives with some of the criteria, so that's where we've got.
Well, this, the additional questions I read in your footnotes where you talked about local choice will hold employers to a minimum of 80% contribution. Is that true, Doug, that we have to fund 80% no matter what for employer's choice?
I don't know, and I'll be honest, I didn't understand these charts at all.
Jake, that's under the administrative portion.
It didn't make any sense at all.
of the State of Virginia code with the local choice.
I'm with you, Doug.
I didn't know you didn't- I didn't
It
understand.
is in state code, this formula, if you will, of how it will be handled and how it will be paid, employer and employee, for
Does it
the
mandate
coverage.
Does it mandate above 80%, or it says 80% is the floor?
80% is the floor.
That, so I'm not familiar with that. I'd have to get more information
I can give that
on.
to
And
you.
is that only for participating with local choice, or if we change to a different TPA, then we can have?
I would have to check into that to be certain it's for everyone. For any provider,
Is that because we're a government entity?
more than likely.
Okay, so that one's new to me. I would have to get more information on that. Because there are a lot of companies that, you know, pay 60% or 65 or 70%. So basically what this is saying is that our town will always have to fund 80% of employee health insurance. Does it mandate, if it says 80% per employee, does it mandate dual coverage and family coverage?
Yes, that's part of it as well, where you take what you're paying single from your costs for dual and family, and whatever's left over, then you pay, the town pays 20% of that difference. So but let's make it real simple and say single's 500, the cost, okay, monthly cost is 500. Laura, you keep me straight here. 500, and then dual is 1,000, and then family is 1,500.
Okay.
So you're going to take 500 from that 1,000 for dual, and then the town will pay not only that 500, but the 20%.
So
of that
70%.
500. Right,
So,
right on up the scale.
wow, okay.
I'd be curious to know if we could get out from underneath the 80% from going to another provider. That'd be
And that's a
really
good
important.
question.
To know like what authority that is governing that.
And
if
it
it's
could
gonna
very well be
inform-
that it's a state,
Right.
and since this is a municipal
Right.
driven, it could very well be.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
but knowing that helps inform what the line of questioning would be after that point.
So, Then you, further down in the asterisk, you said local choice does not allow a health savings account on a non-high deductible plan,
Right.
which
So
was
we have-
2,500 or more would be high deductible?
2,800.
2,800.
There's one plan that's 2,800 single, 5,600 dual and family.
Okay, so then your last bullet point would be health savings account can only be used on a high deductible plan. So basically, if we wanted to do an HSA, it would have to be a deductible plan, or a high deductible plan of
Right.
2,800 or more. That, I think that's about right. That's what I'm accustomed to, as far as that goes, which is the point of why you use an HSA. You did put flex spending in here, and I did want to clarify that for everybody else. A HSA can be used to offset your deductibles. Flex spending, and you can have it accrued, it can be funded by the company, whatever. Flex spending comes out of your employees' pockets that they have to declare at the beginning of a year to say, I'm going to put aside $2,000, but it comes out of their paycheck, pre-tax dollars. And if they use it, fine. If they don't, it's taken away. It's a use it or lose it policy. That's government rules. So flex spending comes out of your pocket, the employee's pocket. HSA can be funded by an employer, so it's a benefit.
You're gonna get with Julie and Joe.
Yeah, if you could, Jake, if you get with us.
I mean, the beautiful part is we still have plenty of time before we.
No, and I appreciate it. That's why I wanted it to come up
Yeah,
now. so
yeah,
we
this
have
is
time.
one of the hard spots when you're doing a budget is it's the big ticket item. And to give us time to also look at the compensation that maybe we're somewhat struggling to catch up.
And if I could get before we meet, Joe, I would like to see I don't want to see the whole booklet, but just the article that talks about the minimums of the funding for the government, because that's something new to me and I'd like to learn more about it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
John, can you lead us into closing? We're kind of pushing for discussion tonight at 9.
Okay.
Mr. McFadden is here to meet you guys.
Yes,
and,
been waiting a good long while.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council convene and go into closed meeting for the following purposes: the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of a public body pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, 2 seconds. Chris?
Second.
No. Jake?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Hollis, yes. Thank you guys for coming out. And, bye, Marco, you have to leave now.